If you've ever been part of a really big project, you know that feeling, that little bit of fear. You follow a perfect plan for months, maybe even years. You finally launch, and the world's already moved on. For decades, that was just how software got built. But then, a really powerful idea came along and changed, well, everything. So let's break it down. This right here, this is the question that kept so many teams up at night. I mean, how do you hit a moving target? Spending 2 years building something in a silo is a massive gamble. But what if there was a way to avoid that gamble? What if you could check in with the real world, not at the very end, but every couple of weeks? That's the problem this whole new way of working was created to solve. All right, to really get how big of a deal this was, you kind of need to see the before and the after picture. So let's put the old, traditional way of doing things right up against this new, modern approach. Okay, the difference here is honestly, it's like building a giant ship versus sailing a small raft. The old way tried to build the entire ship in a dry dock using old maps. It was slow, it was super expensive, and you wouldn't find out about a leak until you finally launched the whole thing. The modern way? It's about building a small raft, getting it on the water right away to see how it handles, and then constantly improving it as you go. Now, this modern approach, it needed more than just a new checklist or a new process. It needed a totally new way of thinking, a whole new philosophy. And that philosophy is called Agile. So what in the world is Agile? Well, the first thing to know is it's not some single rigid rulebook. Think of it more like a mindset, a big umbrella that covers a whole family of different methods. And they all share the same DNA, which comes from this short but really powerful document called the Agile Manifesto. And it's all built on 4 core values. This table right here, this is the absolute heart of the Agile mindset. It's all about a set of trade-offs. It's not saying that having a plan or writing things down is bad, but it is saying that when it really comes down to it, we value reacting to reality more than we value sticking to a plan that just isn't right anymore. We bet on real working software and talking to our customers over perfect 100-page documents. It's a huge shift in what we choose to prioritize. That philosophy sounds pretty great, doesn't it? But, it's still a bit abstract. How does a team actually do this stuff on a rainy Tuesday morning when the pressure's on? Well, that's where specific frameworks come into play. And the most popular of all of these frameworks, by a long shot, is SCRUM. You can think of it like this. If Agile is the philosophy, SCRUM is the engine that actually makes it go. So yeah, if Agile is the why, then SCRUM is the how. It gives teams the structure they need to bring those Agile values to life. And it breaks everything down into 3 really simple buckets: the roles people play, the activities they do, and the artifacts, which is just a fancy word for the tools they use to get the job done. Let's start with the who. What's so amazing about SCRUM is how simple it is. Forget all those complicated hierarchies. A Scrum team has 3, and only 3 core roles. You've got the product owner, the Scrum master, and the development team, and each one has a super important job. First up, the product owner. The best way to think about them is as the captain of the ship. They're the single, clear voice for both the customer and the business. Their entire job is to maximize the value of what the team builds, and they do that by deciding what gets built and in what order. Next, we have the Scrum Master. Now, this is not a project manager. A much better way to think of them is like a coach for the team. They don't do the work for the team, but they make sure the team is working well, they clear any roadblocks out of the way, and they protect the team from distractions. They're there to serve the team, not to boss them around. And finally, we have the heart of the whole operation, the development team. These are the folks, the designers, the engineers, the testers, who are actually building the product. And the key phrase here is self-organizing. The product owner tells them what to build, but nobody tells the development team how to do it. They have the skills and the freedom to figure out the best way to get it done. So now we know who's on the team. Let's dig into how they actually work together day to day. This is the rhythm of Scrum. So where does all the work even come from? Well, it all lives in one single place, the product backlog. This is basically the master to-do list for the entire product. The product owner owns it and is constantly reprioritizing it, making sure the most valuable stuff is always right at the top, ready to be worked on. This thing is not set in stone. It's a living document that changes as we learn. And to make sure every single item on that list is actually focused on creating value, Teams often use this really simple format called a user story. It frames every single task from the user's point of view. As a user, I want to do this so that I can get this benefit. This little sentence forces everybody to constantly think about the why behind the work, not just the what. Now, the team doesn't just pull work off that list whenever they feel like it. The work is done in these short, consistent cycles called sprints. You can think of a sprint as the heartbeat of Scrum. It's a fixed amount of time, usually about 2 weeks, where the team grabs a small chunk of work from the top of the backlog and promises to turn it into a real, usable piece of the product by the end. And every single sprint follows the exact same predictable rhythm. It's a reliable structure with a few key meetings. It always kicks off with sprint planning, has a quick check-in every day called the daily scrum, and then it wraps up with 2 super important chances to reflect, the sprint review and the sprint retrospective. That daily check-in, the daily scrum, it's a super fast 15-minute meeting for the development team to just sync up. It's not a status report for a manager, it's a commitment to each other. By having everyone quickly answer these 3 simple questions, problems get surfaced in hours, not weeks, and everyone stays on the same page. Then, at the very end of the sprint, we hit these 2 critical feedback loops. First up is the sprint review. This is where the team shows off what they actually built to stakeholders and everyone else. It's all about inspecting the product. Right after that, they have the sprint retrospective, which is a private meeting just for the team to inspect their process. The retrospective is, you could argue, the most important part of Scrum. It's all driven by these 2 simple but powerful questions. It gives the team a dedicated, safe space to figure out how to work together better. This relentless focus on improving sprint after sprint after sprint, that's the secret engine that turns good teams into truly great ones. And there you have it, a whirlwind tour of Agile and Scrum. What started as just a better way to build software has turned out to be a fundamentally better way to solve all kinds of complex problems. This simple loop, build, inspect, adapt, it's being used everywhere now, from marketing teams to scientific research labs. So the real question isn't just how software teams use it, but where in your world could this new way of thinking make all the difference?
You know that feeling when you're trying to build something complex, something really new, maybe it's an app or, I don't know, a big project for work. For years, the way people approach this, especially in software, was incredibly rigid, like months or years of planning everything up front, massive documents, and then you just built it, hoping nothing changed along the way. But, well, things always change, right? The market, user needs, that whole desire to get things done quickly, efficiently, but also be able to, adapt, that's really driven a huge change in how products get built now. So today we're doing a deep dive into Agile. It's this set of modern software development ideas that have just fundamentally reshaped the industry. We've got this great lecture document here that breaks down Agile and it really zooms in on one of the most popular ways to do it. Scrum, our goal, cut through the jargon, understand the core ideas, and really get why Agile is everywhere in IT. Basically give you a shortcut to knowing what's up with this really important topic. Okay, so let's unpack this. That old school way, the traditional approach. What did that actually involve? What were the maybe hidden downsides?
Well, historically, software development, it often felt like building with blueprints that were totally set in stone from the get-go, very sequential. And this traditional method, it usually meant pretty significant upfront costs, a real resistance to change once things got rolling. And a major, major drawback was that errors, they often weren't found until really late in the game, late in the software development lifecycle, the SDLC, which means expensive rework, right? Projects also tended to have fewer feedback loops, fewer iterations, and honestly, often a lack of transparency. Stakeholders were kind of in the dark.
Wow. So tons of planning, months of execution, and just fingers crossed that the original idea is still relevant when you finish. That sounds incredibly risky, not just budget-wise, but like, are you even building the right thing anymore?
Exactly.
But then came this modern way. Agile, promising focus on the highest value, high quality, and crucially, the shortest time to delivery. That's not just a small adjustment.
No, it's a massive shift in thinking, a paradigm shift, really.
This is where it starts to get really interesting.
Absolutely. And the why behind Agile's, explosion in popularity is that Emphasis on adaptability, teamwork, real teamwork, and iterative development. Doing things in small cycles. These things are key because they just drastically cut the risk of building the wrong thing. It's why Agile is so widely adopted across IT. We see it everywhere. Software engineering, SE, computer science, CS, even in computer science and network engineering, CS&E, which blends software and network infrastructure.
Okay, so how does it specifically help in those areas?
Well, in software engineering, SSE, it's a natural fit. That iterative nature, the focus on continuous integration, continuous delivery, it just works. You build, test, deliver constantly. In computer science, maybe surprisingly, Agile concepts are useful even for things like system design, research projects, algorithm development. It encourages cooperation, flexibility, even in abstract work. And for CS&E, network engineering, Agile's adaptability is gold. Network projects can be incredibly complex, requirements change. So that flexibility in design and implementation, it's pretty essential.
Right. So what does this all boil down to for you, the listener? Just trying to get a handle on the tech world. It basically means a big shift towards development that's more responsive, more focused on the actual user. It's about building things people actually need and making sure those things can evolve, as needs change, not just rigidly sticking to some potentially obsolete plan. Minimizing waste, maximizing relevance. That's the idea.
Precisely.
So that leads us to the core philosophy. What is Agile exactly? It's not just one single method, right?
Correct. It's really an umbrella term. It covers a whole set of methods and practices, all based on the values and principles laid out in the Agile Manifesto.
Oh, the manifesto. Sort of like the founding document.
You could say that. Yeah, it's almost like a constitution for this modern way of developing software. It came out of a meeting of 17 software developers back in 2001. They were, frankly, fed up with the old heavyweight processes.
Yeah.
So the manifesto itself, it's this formal proclamation. It outlines 4 key values and 12 principles. And to really get the Agile mindset, you have to understand those 4 core values. They really highlight the contrast with traditional ways.
Okay, what are they?
They're presented as choices, valuing one thing over another. So first, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. It's not that processes and tools don't matter, but the focus is on the people, their skills, how they talk, how they work together. A fancy tool won't fix a broken team dynamic,
Yeah, that makes sense. People first.
Second, working software over comprehensive documentation. The old way often meant tons of docs before any code. Agile says, let's get something working, something tangible, even if small, and iterate. Documentation supports that, it doesn't lead it.
Get something real fast. I like that.
Third, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Instead of rigid upfront contracts that you argue over, Agile pushes for an ongoing partnership with the customer. Constant feedback, shared understanding, adjusting together.
More like a partnership than a transaction.
Exactly. And fourth, responding to changeover. Following a plan. This is huge. It's not just about being flexible, it's about acknowledging that you can't perfectly predict the future. So you build systems designed to learn and adapt as you go. It accepts that change isn't just possible, it's probable, even welcome.
And that over part you mentioned is so critical. It's not saying documentation or plans or contracts are useless.
Not at all.
But just that the things on the left side, the people, the working software, the collaboration, the adapting those, are valued more. It really flips the perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From predicting and controlling to adapting and collaborating.
It really does. It requires a different kind of trust, maybe different management style, too.
And you said Agile is an umbrella. So Scrum is one way to do it, but there are others.
Oh, yes. Lots of methods and practices fit under the Agile umbrella. Scrum is definitely one of the most popular, probably the most popular framework. But you also have things like Kanban, which is very focused on visualizing workflow and limiting how much work is in progress at any one time. There's Extreme Programming, XP, known for practices like test-driven development, TDD, where you write tests before the code, and Pair Programming, 2 developers at 1 machine. Then there's behavior-driven development, BDD, focusing on shared understanding how the system should behave, and lean software development, heavily focused on eliminating waste.
So it's like a whole toolkit.
Pretty much, a rich toolkit. And Scrum is a really prominent, widely used tool in that kit for putting the Agile philosophy into action.
Okay, so let's zoom in on Scrum then. If Agile provides the why and the values, how does Scrum provide the how? How do teams actually use it?
Right. Scrum is specifically an agile approach, a framework, really, for developing innovative products and services. It's lightweight, meaning it doesn't prescribe everything, but it gives you defined roles, activities, and artifacts. And it usually kicks off with the product backlog.
Got it. Let's start with the roles. who's involved in the Scrum team?
Okay, the core roles. First, you have the product owner. This person is absolutely central. They're the empowered point of product leadership. Their job: decide what features get built. They maintain and communicate the product vision. They're essentially the voice of the customer or client. They also decide on release dates, content, and crucially, they're the ones who accept or reject the work the team completes. It's a big job, balancing short-term needs with the long-term vision.
So they really hold the keys to the what and why of the product.
Absolutely. Then there's the Scrum Master. Now, this role is interesting. They help everyone, the team, the product owner, even the wider organization, understand and embrace Scrum values and practices. They're often described as a servant leader. They protect the team from outside interference, and they actively work to remove any impediments, any roadblocks that are slowing the team down.
Okay, but how is that different from a traditional project manager?
Here's the key distinction, and it's subtle but vital. The Scrum Master has no authority to exert direct control over the team. They don't tell people what to do or how to do it. It completely changes that traditional manager-subordinate dynamic. It becomes about enabling, coaching, facilitating, removing system-level problems, not directing tasks. It requires strong leadership skills, but a different kind.
That is interesting. Fostering self-organization.
Exactly. And that brings us to the development team. This is the group that actually builds the product increment. They self-organize to figure out the best way to achieve the goals set by the product owner. They need to be cross-functional, meaning they collectively have all the skills needed: design, coding, testing, whatever it takes. They work collaboratively, sharing responsibility.
So not siloed specialist, but a team that can take an idea from start to finish.
That's the ideal, yes. And we shouldn't forget the users and stakeholders, the people who will actually use the product or have a stake in its success. Their feedback is critical throughout the process.
Makes sense. Okay, roles covered. You mentioned artifacts too. These are like the tools or documents Scrum uses.
That's right. Think of them as tools for transparency and managing the work. The first, and arguably the most fundamental, is the product backlog. This really embodies that agile principle of doing the most valuable work first. It's a prioritized list of everything that might be needed in the product. Constantly evolving, dynamic, high priority, high value items are at the top, ready to be worked on. Lower priority items are further down. It stems from the product plan, the requirements.
And how is it usually kept? Like a spreadsheet?
It can be. Index cards on a wall, a spreadsheet, specialized software. But very often, the items in the backlog are written as user stories.
Oh, user stories. I've heard that term. What exactly is a user story?
It's essentially a short, simple description of a feature or functionality told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability, usually a user or customer. They're deliberately simple, designed to be understandable by both business folks and technical folks. They spark conversation. The common template is, as a type of user, I want some goal so that some reason or benefit.
Right, that who, what, why structure.
Precisely. It forces you to think about the value proposition, not just the feature itself.
The source we looked at had some good examples, like for online banking. As a customer, I want to view account summary online so that I do not have to wait till the month end to view the statement.
Perfect example. Clear user, clear action, clear benefit.
Or, as an employee, I want to add new customers online so that it saves my time. Another good one, and a more general one. As a user, I want to update profile details so that my details are up to date.
All good examples following the template.
And it also had some interesting comparisons, showing what makes a better user story. Like comparing, as a recruiter, I want to review resumes, versus, as a recruiter, I want to manage the ads she has placed. The first one feels much more like a specific task.
Yes, the second one, manage ads, is broader, less defined. The first one is more focused, more actionable for a sprint.
Or this one. As a driver, I want to find the store with the shortest drive time, versus find directions in Google Maps.
Yeah, that's a classic. The first one states the users need shortest drive time. The second one jumps to a specific solution, Google Maps. A good user story focuses on the need, the what and why, leaving the how open for the team to figure out.
Got it. Focus on the problem, not the solution, in the story itself. Okay, so product backlog, often made of user stories. What other artifacts?
Well, flowing from the product backlog, you have the sprint backlog. For each sprint, that short work cycle, the team selects a set of product backlog items they commit to completing. That selection becomes the sprint backlog for that specific sprint. It's their plan for the iteration.
So a smaller, focused list for the current work cycle.
Exactly. And then there's the burn down chart. This is a visual tool, a graph. It shows the amount of work remaining in a sprint versus time. Typically, work left is on the vertical axis, time on the horizontal. It gives a quick visual of progress. Are we on track? Are we falling behind? It helps predict if the team will meet the sprint goal. Very useful for transparency.
A visual progress report, essentially.
Pretty much. Shows ideal progress versus actual progress. Helps spot problems early.
Okay, so we have the people, roles, and the key things they use, artifacts. How does the actual work happen? You mentioned sprints.
Right. The rhythm of Scrum is built around sprints. These are fixed-length iterations, time-boxed, usually between 1 week and 1 calendar month long, most commonly 2 weeks. During a sprint, the team works to turn a selection of product backlog items, the sprint backlog, into a potentially releasable increment of the product.
A usable piece of the product.
Ideally, yes. And this regular rhythm is maintained by 4 main Scrum activities or events.
Okay, what are those?
First is sprint planning. This happens at the beginning of each sprint. The product owner presents the prioritized backlog items, and the entire Scrum team collaborates to define a sprint goal, what can be achieved in the sprint, and selects the work for the sprint backlog.
Setting the stage for the next couple of weeks.
Exactly. Second is the daily Scrum. You might know it as the daily stand-up. It's a short meeting, typically 15 minutes, same time, same place every day, just for the development team. They quickly synchronize activities and plan for the next 24 hours. Each member usually covers, what did I do yesterday? What will I do today? Are there any impediments blocking me?
Quick sync, identify problems fast.
That's the idea. It's not a status meeting for management. It's a planning meeting for the team itself. Brevity and focus are key.
Makes sense. What's next?
Third, near the end of the sprint, you have the sprint review. This is where the Scrum team shows what they accomplished during the sprint. They demonstrate the working software increment. Stakeholders are usually invited, they provide feedback, and everyone collaborates on what to do next. It's a crucial inspection and adaptation point for the product itself.
So show the work, get feedback, adjust the plan.
Precisely. And finally, also near the end of the sprint, usually after the review but before the next sprint planning, is the sprint retrospective. This meeting is for the Scrum team product owner, Scrum Master development team to inspect itself. They look back at the sprint and discuss what went well, what problems they encountered, and how those problems could be prevented. They focus on their process, their teamwork, their tools, and identify specific improvements they can implement in the next sprint.
So the review is about the what, the product.
Yeah.
And the retrospective is about the how, the process.
You got it. The retrospective is incredibly important for continuous improvement. It allows the team to tune and adapt their way of working, making Scrum work best for their specific context. It's where they really learn and evolve as a team.
So these activities, they're not just random meetings. They create this constant cycle plan. Do, check, adapt, plan, execute, inspect, adapt.
Ooh,
Overlap.
that's the heartbeat of Scrum, yes.
Yeah. And that's really the core of Agile in practice, right? That continuous learning, adjusting, and trying to build better stuff by embracing the fact that you don't know everything up front.
Exactly. Embracing uncertainty rather than fighting it.
Wow. Okay. So let's try and wrap this up. We've journeyed from that really rigid, plan everything first world of traditional development.
Yeah, the waterfall approach, essentially.
To this much more fluid, adaptable, iterative landscape of Agile. And we saw how Scrum provides a concrete framework with specific roles, artifacts, and activities to actually live those Agile principles day to day. We saw how it changes roles, like the product owner focusing on value and the Scrum Master enabling the team, how artifacts like the product backlog and user stories provide clarity, and how the activities create that rhythm of continuous improvement.
And the core benefit, just to reiterate, is really clear. Agile, and Scrum specifically, aims to deliver the highest possible value with high quality in the shortest sustainable time. And it does that by deliberately valuing those things we talked about. Individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration, and responding effectively to change. It flips the old priorities.
So here's a thought for you, the listener. Knowing all this, the next time you get a software update on your phone or see a new feature pop up in an app you use, or just hear about a tech launch, take a second and consider that invisible structure, that scaffolding of Agile ideas and maybe even Scrum rituals that could be behind it, making that constant evolution possible. And maybe think about this too. If these ideas, adaptability, breaking things down, getting feedback, iterating, learning as you go, if they work so well for complex things like software, how might they apply elsewhere? Could you use some of these principles in your own work? A personal project, learning something new, even, I don't know, planning a tricky family event, taking small steps, checking in frequently, being willing to adapt. Maybe it's a powerful approach beyond just tech. Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Well, thank you for diving deep with us today. We really hope this exploration of Agile and Scrum helps you feel a bit more informed about how so much innovation happens today. Maybe gives you some ideas to try out yourself. You've been listening to The Deep Dive.